Record on. All right, we are now recording. Matt, welcome to our first edition of the new year of our Let's Talk Tax webinar slash podcast, whatever we want to call it. Thanks for coming, or thanks for tuning in. We're going to have this on YouTube later. There's a ton of information to come. My name is Lyle McDougall. I'm a certified financial planner and the managing director of Bakerview Financial Solutions. And with me is Matthew Fern from VMA Accounting. Matt, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Matthew from VMA Accounting and Consulting. I've been in public practice for 26 years now. A little too long for me, but it's getting there.
You're not that old.
We're small business tax specialists. You can't be a jack of all trades, but that's my position within our company as I help small business practitioners, do some tax planning, estate planning, and then help them navigate through this extremely tough time.
Yeah,
just one other thing, this is for information purposes only. If you have a tax question, please phone a tax professional. Every situation is individual and there's always nuances that you don't think are important that are. So please, if you're listening to this and you realize, hey, I may need some help, phone a tax professional. Don't just go on any advice here.
Yeah. That's the one thing that I'm going to have to keep harping on is that, and it's going to be very apparent by the end of this presentation that if you do have any concerns or any questions about anything tax related or anything income tax related or anything your economic or fiscal updates related, talk to a specialist, talk to an accountant, talk to a financial planner, talk to somebody who knows what's going on right now in the world. So what we're going to learn today, we're going to learn that there's a lot of stuff to talk about. COVID's still here. It's worse than ever. As far as like numbers are concerned, it's the worst numbers. We're in the second or third wave.
I thought BC was doing a little better, weren't they?
BC's doing good, but on Canada overall, and BC still, from a couple hundred or a couple dozen cases in the summertime to now we're up in 500-600 cases a day. So anyways, let's get to it because we can talk about COVID all day long. Okay, so we're probably in, I would say, the third inning of a 9-inning ball game right now when it comes to COVID. We're about a third way through. We're not even in the 7th inning stretch. It's going to get harder. It's going to get worse. And you just have to persevere and put through it. I'm sorry to tell everybody, it's not great right now, and it's not going to get any better. There's not much that anybody can do about it either. And we're going to talk about this. Last year in February, as compared to yesterday or whenever they announced the statistics, probably they took the stat at the end of December, but 7% of all businesses in Canada have disappeared since last February. And I don't know the exact number, but I'm going to hazard a guess that 99.9% of them are small business. Matt, what have you seen?
And this is the ones that basically, it takes about 6 months, Lyle, for this to really start to show up. Just so everybody knows, on a bankruptcy or when a business kind of falls apart, it takes about 6 months for it to really fall off. So that basically this is businesses that didn't survive March and April and May. That's what this comes down to.
Yeah.
This doesn't include all the businesses that now have survived all the way to December. I don't know if you know this, but the amount of job loss in Canada in January has been astronomical.
Yeah.
The unemployment numbers that are going to come out will scare you over the next couple of months. They have gone up a lot. Talking to a lady, was in a department of 300. She is now the only person left in her company in that department.
Yeah.
I talked to another one of my T1 clients. There was 2,000 people in his tech company. They deal with the United States. There is now 100 people left.
Wow.
So they wait. Most companies will wait till the end January to let people go. It's really kind of mean to let people go. So that 7%, what I'm saying, Lyle, is going to skyrocket. I mean, I had a lot of people coming in the early part. They kind of pivoted. Some of the businesses kind of failed. Now I'm seeing people come in left, right, and center. I'm getting a million phone calls. I need this CEBA loan, which is what we're going to talk about. Why can't I get the CEBA loan? I've been denied 3 times. I need some help and guidance. And they're just out of money because January is always the same. There's no credit in January. Nobody's paying in January. If you didn't get paid by December 15th, you're not getting paid till February 1st. And that's just the way it seems to be. And I also said to everybody that was my clients, if you're going for a loan, please go do it in the beginning of December because January, most banks pull back lending.
Yeah.
So 7%, Lyle, that's basically the businesses didn't survive the first 3 months.
Well,
And a lot of businesses, while they still say they're there, but they're not operating. I
And-
probably have 26 of my clients that their business is still going. It's not bankrupt, but they're not operating.
yeah, and this is in spite of the
Lots of money.
wage subsidy,
Yep.
the loans, and everything else that rental subsidy for business owners. There's all, in spite of all of those things that the government did, we still lost 7% of businesses in Canada. So the overall number, it's not the volume, it's just, if there was 1 million businesses in Canada, we lost 70,000 of them last year. That's just a flat number of 7%.
Most economists, if you actually listen to the economists from the major banks like Scotiabank, Royal Bank, they're not lending money to small businesses, a lot of them anymore. They're not, because they figure 30% of small businesses in Canada will be gone by the end of 2020.
Well, and that's what happens if the government money dries up, and that's what we're seeing now. And we'll talk about that with the CEBA stuff, because CEBA, what we're going to see is we're going to see a lot of talk, but we're not going to see a lot of action coming out of the various levels of government. And yeah, I mean, we can harp on this all day long. This is a very scary statistic.
Yeah.
You know, even again, even with wage subsidies and everything else, we still lost 7%. So can you imagine what it would have been like if they didn't have that? It would be like probably 50% of the businesses would have been gone.
And these are businesses that were getting 75% of their wages covered, and they're still letting people go, right?
Well, and Matt, like, look at the small businesses that applied for the $40,000. A lot of small business can float on $40,000 CEBA loans, but they still got to pay it back. So if you take out 40 grand and you can't pay it back, you don't get the 10 grand free. And then at the end of next year, you got to start paying off at 5% the rate. So all that's going to do is kill your cash flow in 2 years' time if you can't pay it back. So we're
already seeing this. The sad part is Revenue Canada is already seeing bankruptcies with the CEBA loan on it.
Yeah.
And they're seeing bankruptcies with the people are adding in. They took the CERB benefit and they knew they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
They're putting them on bankruptcies already. I was talking to a bankruptcy and trustee, and now Revenue Canada is looking like the Canadian government is looking like they're going to want to remove the CRB from bankruptcies. Just so people know this is the word in the I don't know, this is what they're talking about, is that even after bankruptcy they can go get your money because it's fraud. That's so it's very scary, some of the stuff that's going on. And that's actually from one of the trustees, which is a national trustee across Canada, who said this is being a real issue, and the government knows it.
There's no doubt in my mind that they're going to come after that. So talk about the federal emergency benefits. So we've got CERB, which is now transitioned to the Canada Relief Benefit. In Ontario, Quebec, I think this is more applicable. In BC, there's not a lot. There's not a lot of. In BC, we're still doing okay, but we are one nation as an economy. We are one country. So if one part is suffering, it's inevitably going to come and hit us. Inevitable. We are not an autonomous economic zone in BC.
Right. Yep.
Alberta is hurting. Saskatchewan's doing okay. Manitoba's hurting. Ontario's hurting. Quebec's hurting. And the Maritimes are doing okay. So you got 50% of the population is in lockdown right now. It's inevitably going to impact our economy. CEBA, we've got a $40,000 loan for CEBA. Then they announced that they're going to add 20 grand. This is where Matt and I have spent the majority of our time with our clients is on the CEBA stuff, because when they announced the new 20 grand, I've had one client get approved for it for the additional $20,000.
Yeah. And do you want me to go into that now, Rob?
Yeah. You just go nuts on that. We got a lot of time.
Yeah. So if you've got employees and you're paying wages, it's really easy. It seems like it's still really easy to get. The only thing you have to watch out for is if you've got anything wrong on the $40,000 loan application. If you filled out a box incorrectly, like, oh, your T4 income was less than 20 or whatever, you're not getting this 20,000. There's no mechanism for you to get this, because they're going to reject you saying you did something wrong on the $40,000 application. We're not giving you the 20. That's what some of our clients have come back at. And that simply could be there was a T4 adjustment that had to take place because there was an error. They say there's a mechanism coming. We haven't seen it. So that's the first one. If you have payroll, it's pretty easy. If you don't have payroll, it's getting very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people who have the expenses that I've helped have been denied. So here's my recommendation, okay? everybody has to upload. If you don't have salary of over 20,000, you have to upload receipts. Don't just upload receipts. Do a spreadsheet that for every category. So I'll give you an example. You do your TELUS bills, right? You got all your TELUS bills, you scan your TELUS bills and you send them to CRA. What's coming back is illegible, doesn't add up to the amount that you have, because unfortunately, they're not very smart, or with their printers are absolutely horrific. I don't know what the problem is. So do a spreadsheet for every single category. Make it really easy. Put the date on it, who it was paid to, and the total. So if you do your mobility, TELUS mobility, let's just say you scanned your bills and you were denied. Do a spreadsheet, put that on the front and scan all of those. If you've got your loan payments, do a loan payment schedule, scan it all in. If you've got contractors, do it for every single category. That will help you out. One of my clients did that. They did get accepted. So make sure that it's really easy for them to follow. The other thing, the mistake that people are making is they're not reading the list properly, and they say, oh, these expenses qualify. Revenue Canada is looking, so you're looking at it optimistically, they look at it pessimistically.
Yep.
So if there's any reason to take out an expense, they're going to take it out. And what people are doing is, oh, I reached my $60,000 limit, I'm good, I'm going to stop here, and then they're denied.
No. Yeah, you have
Put
to
it all in.
Yeah,
every single one. Take the time. This application is more than a 5-minute application.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take hours. You got to have everything, all your ducks in a row. You got to have your Excel spreadsheets done. And then the other thing that I'm going to strongly recommend is that you follow up before you get the application back saying, hey, how's my application doing? There's a new system, so you can see it online. If there are starting to be issues, make sure you phone up and say, hey, can I resend the information? But really, this is going to come down to preparation. This comes down to, this is just like an audit. When I take on an audit with CRA.
This is, Matt, I'm glad you said that, because this is almost exactly like an audit, and you're auditing yourself to try and get money from them.
Correct. And by the way, this information is being stored and will be used against you on your tax. So just beware of that too.
Yep.
So all these people that are using subcontractors that have receipts, the government ain't stupid. They're going to make sure and double check people's names to make sure that they're putting that on their tax returns too, just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
But yes, they're pre-auditing you.
Yes.
So when I do an audit, it comes down to preparation. It comes down to, okay, what do I want the auditor to look at? Is the information presented in such a way that the auditor can be like, yeah, I can see it. This makes sense. You've got backup. Okay, let's move on. If you don't do your pre-work, you're not going to get the money.
Yep.
Period.
And which is a far cry from when it first came out with the initial $40,000 loan. You basically, if you had a pulse and applied for it, you got it.
But that's why they're not getting the 20, because we have the Revenue Canada is coming back on the application saying, hey, there's a problem here. We need to get this rectified. And then they're being denied, right? Yeah. So the extra 20 is really tough.
And they're actually doing a credit check now.
Oh, they are doing a credit check.
Yeah.
So if you have bad credit, you're done?
You're done.
Yeah, I haven't seen.
That's what I was told. That's what I was told from somebody that works at the bank. I may be mistaken. And again,
no, if the bank's running credit checks, the bank's running credit checks. That might be in response to, that might be in response to the people going bankrupt that I've talked about. That we're adding in the CEBA loan in the bankruptcy.
You got to look, and when we're dealing with all of these things, you have to look forward. You have to follow what's going on. Don't look at right now, because right now is not what it's going to be like in 3 months or 6 months or anything like that.
No, and remember, all these programs changed 10 times.
Yeah.
At least 10 times.
And that's another good point, is they keep changing the goalposts on us, and we're trying to get the best information out that we can. That's why I didn't build the presentation until this morning, because they just change their goalposts every 5 seconds.
So if you're not getting the CEBA loan, there might be a good reason for it, and you might not be getting it, because the people that are marginal that have come in and talked to me, they're being denied.
Yep.
The ones that are like the contractors and everything else that are out of money, and BD or another group owes them money, they're contractors. I just don't think you're going to get this loan.
And so that brings us to some alternatives, because a lot of people need inventory to be able to sell stuff, and they can't afford to buy inventory because they have no money left.
Yeah, but this isn't for inventory.
No, right. So there are some ways to get inventory loans through EDC, Export Development Canada, Business Development Canada.
Yep.
Those are your best bets. If you need anybody to go, if you need some help with this, Matt and I have relationships with EDC and BDC, and we can point you in the right direction rather than just going through their,
Yeah, BDC is definitely 2 years of business. No, that's the other thing that this loan really, people have contacted me and they're like, well, I bought a business or I incorporated. I don't seem to qualify. Can you help? And I'm like, I can't do anything. The rule, that's the rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the rules, I mean, this is telling you what you need to do. If you've got subcontractors, go make them wages.
Yeah.
You should have put them on wages. I mean, that's what they want.
And that just goes back to the overall government desire, which was rolled out 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whenever the Liberals put back in. They want people on salary. They want people on payroll.
They want CPP.
Yeah, and we'll cover that next a couple slides. Wage subsidy, Matt, has been extended till, well, this year, but probably about the spring, maybe even summer of this year now, looking
at I mean, so Ontario and Quebec, oh my goodness me.
Even without the vaccine being handed out or sent out as much as it is, we're still going to be on restrictions, which is going to impact businesses, which is going to decrease their revenue.
Yeah, we got a lot of problems with that too, just rolling it out. It's not rolling out as fast as it needs to go. And
the sooner the vaccines come out, the sooner the restrictions come off, the sooner that businesses can get back to business as normal. And this is just it's a double whammy because they screwed up on the vaccine procurement, and then they went and now they've got this wage subsidy that they have to pay for. If they take that away, then you see even more businesses going down.
Well, remember the wage subsidy was a diminishing rate. It kept on going down. It started out at 75. And all the layoffs in January were because, we're now under 50%.
Yep. Businesses
needed 50% subsidy just to keep people employed.
Yeah.
But now what people they're saying is, we can't even we're losing money at you, even though we got a 50% wage subsidy. Yep. I mean, that's horrible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know people at WestJet let go.
WestJet, Air Canada.
I know Air Canada. I know a lot on the internet side. The internet side is hurting. Anything related to cross-border are hurting really bad due to the administration change.
Yeah.
Now, politically, they're not really my problem, but it will affect Canada very, very much. I don't really know what's going to happen with Biden. Everybody, I think, thought that Canada would do better under Biden. I actually have very different feelings. I think Canada.
Well, I have a slide on that later, right? So we'll cover that.
But if anybody has a question on the CEBA loan, don't hesitate to ask. It is a tough thing to go through because they don't. To me, it doesn't. Unless you've got wages, they don't want to give it to you.
Yep.
Period.
Rental subsidy. That's actually a fairly straightforward calculation, but it took them 10 months to get it out.
Yeah, and it's a way better one than the first one, which was a loan. Now, remember, the reason behind the first one was because they didn't want to recognize those subsidies in this budget.
Oh.
That loan was forgiven January 1st, 2021. So it's in next year's budget. So when people say, it's half $1 trillion. No. All these CEBA loans have to be taken into consideration. All the wage subsidy has to be taken into consideration. And now the rent subsidy, the first group, has to be taken into consideration. It's $1.5 trillion.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Sickness benefit and caregiving benefit, we don't really have a lot of that yet. Those are very specialized benefits. If you are sick with COVID and you can't work, they'll pay you. And if you have a direct relative that has got COVID and you have to stay home and take care of them, you'll also get a benefit. So, I mean, those are fairly straightforward to get. But you're seeing now, like when this first happened, they were doling money out like crazy. And now it's like, okay, now they're realized, oh no, we spent way too much money. Yeah. So we're going to flash back to August of 2020, where Prime Minister Trudeau was interviewed, and this is his quote: "The last thing we need to see is a rise in taxes right now." I guess right now meant August, not now, but not right now during so not during the pandemic, but just in August. Millions of Canadians are out of work. Last I checked, they're still out of work, and the economy is nowhere near where it needs to be. Well, as we know, it's not. So what is the answer as of January 1st? Taxes are going up. Taxes are going up. So April 1st, alcohol tax. So buy your booze in March if you're a drinker. Cost of alcohol is going up, and
feels so good not to drink and not give that tax.
It's a big chunk of revenue out of the government. That's why they have to increase it.
Yeah,
Stop drinking.
yeah. I mean, the amount of tax we pay, it starts to hurt, man. I mean, yeah.
It's true. Anyways, we'll go Netflix tax. If anybody notices your Netflix subscription went up, inside of that subscription increase is the new Netflix tax that the government rolled out in order for us to get more Canadian content. Okay, thanks. So, I mean, you can see that it hasn't hit Disney Plus and it hasn't hit Amazon Prime yet, but it's only a matter of time. It's also, there's an additional tax inside of your cable bill.
Only a matter of time. They got better lobbyists.
Yeah. So it's embedded in that. And Netflix has been around. They're the first ones, right? So they're going to get hit first. Carbon tax in BC. We already have a carbon tax. We've had one for like 10 years. That's why our gas is so expensive. But that being said, the rest of the country is being forced with a carbon tax. And by 2030, it's going to be up 467%. So that means everything that we purchase that has been transported into our province is going to be increasing in price.
But here's my problem with this whole tax, and you know there's no alternative.
No.
Right? To transport, we have bunker fuel in the ships, we have gasoline in the trucks, and there's no Tesla truck yet that can. I mean, I know there's companies working on it, and apparently some new lithium battery. It would make sense to me if they had an alternative and we're trying to force people to use it, right? But there's no alternative. So this is purely a tax grab.
And it doesn't decrease our carbon emissions. BC is a perfect example of that. We've
had
it's
not. It's just straight tax.
We've had a carbon tax for 10 years in BC, and our carbon output has gone up. So again, this is just a straight tax. It's not going back to the people. They've even been audited by the Auditor General on the first rollout of the carbon tax. And I think something like 60% of the people that said that they thought were going to get money back from the carbon tax didn't qualify.
Yeah. I actually know people, I believe it was a carbon tax thing that got fired actually in the Auditor Department in BC.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. That's how they wanted this done and they got let go because it was negative about the carbon tax.
And here's the thing: is everybody, we need to get off fossil fuels. Yes, absolutely, we need to get off fossil fuels. I don't have disagree.
What's the alternative? On trucking.
Yeah, create an alternative. But until then, we have to be able to do something with it. And they're not taking the carbon tax and investing into technology. They're not taking the carbon.
There it is. You just hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
This goes straight into general revenue.
Yep.
And this is going into green initiatives for lithium batteries to make it so that truckers could actually not go on gasoline. Hey, all for it. But general revenue is general revenue.
Yeah. Payroll tax. So Canada Pension is going up again. It's been going up for the last 3 years. That's kind of how this whole tax talk started. It was the Canada Pension Plan increases that nobody knew about. It was kind of kept really quiet. Nobody talks about it. And we're going to have next week's podcast or next week's webinar on the Canada Pension Plan increases completely. But for this year, you have an increase of 9% off your paycheck for Canada Pension Plan. And if you're an employer, you have to pay that 9% as well for your portion and for your employees' portion.
And this is a really interesting topic too, Lyle, with like investing and why they're doing this, which we'll talk about next week, because a lot of people don't really understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
Which is there's a shortfall, but it's a shortfall also. They're worried about the Canadian stock market, which we'll talk about next.
Yeah, we'll talk. And again, like we were talking about a couple of slides ago, is the government wants everybody on payroll. Well, this is an exact thing, because the only time you get Canada Pension Plan contributions is off of payroll. So if you're self-employed and you're not paying yourself on payroll and you're not contributing to Canada Pension, you don't get any of these loans until you hit a certain level of payroll. So they're forcing business owners to go onto payroll in order to qualify for federal packages or for bailouts.
Correct.
So they're forcing people who do not want to be on the government welfare system, and it's a welfare system. It's the welfare. It's not welfare, but it's a welfare system. They're forcing people who do not want to be on that system, and you used to be able to opt out of that, to now they're forcing people to be on it, which is, again, that's counterintuitive. It's not a great idea.
We can go over that next week as to why they want that, because when you start looking as to why they want that, because it saves them money in other areas, right? That's the thing that people don't understand. It saves them in OAS.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time. And then bracket creep, they kept tax brackets the same. They didn't increase the tax brackets with inflation. So that in itself is a hidden tax, because we all make more money as inflation goes up. So if you get a 1% raise or a 2% raise for cost of living, and that increases your income, but the tax brackets don't increase, then you actually might lose money if you're at that buffer, because your tax bracket, the next dollar that you earn after that is taxed at say 46.7% or whatever it is, whatever the highest marginal tax rate. So they say their taxes are going up. They also say that there's all these benefits for people out there, but the reality is that taxes are going up and that the benefits are extremely hard to get.
Some of them are, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing to talk about is the new changes to the T4s to try to catch the cheaters on the CERB and on the wage subsidy.
Yeah.
So if you get a T4 this year, you're going to notice that there's extra boxes, and they're going to catch a lot of people doing this. It's a lot of extra work, and I've been going through all my T4s, but yeah, they're going to catch a lot of cheaters this way. And there was a lot of people that cheated on the CERB.
It's amazing. Like, and that's the thing, is that I don't know. We can go over that. And I don't condone cheating. I don't condone any of that stuff. The government had to do something to deal with this, and they did the best that they thought they could. I don't think they seek the proper advice from the proper sources to help get, like, they really need to tap into the economic experts in this country and ask them, what do you think we should do? Not we're going to do this and you guys have to adapt to it. It's, what do you think we should do? What's the best case scenario for, and most business owners don't have a problem paying taxes. We live in one of the best countries in the world. And the reason why we do is because we have a good infrastructure, a framework, but we're not, and we pay taxes to maintain that. And nobody's arguing with that. That's not my job to get rid of people's taxes, but we also have to make sure that it's being spent properly and they're doing the right thing for people.
They were advised just to get money in the economy. That's what they were advised.
And they did that. And then you see people
buying Louis Vuitton purses.
Or they're saving.
Or they were saving,
right.
Correct.
So you have the people that were out buying Louis Vuitton that should never have had that. And then you've got people that are just like, okay, I'm going to take the government check and we're not going to go out for dinner and we're not going to go out for lunches and we're not. That in itself is an economic impact because we're staying home. We're not ordering in and out. Like, our lifestyles have changed substantially from last year to this year.
Yep.
Travel is gone. It's going to take years to get over this. I've shown this slide before.
This slide's really important though.
Yeah.
Because the world, I don't know if you saw, the World Bank's even talked, this is even being talked in the Economist magazine, which is a worldwide magazine. And this is now being also talked by the Bank of the World Bank. Canada's banking is under a lot of threat. And if you haven't seen, and unfortunately it gets political, but Pierre Poilievre did a wonderful thing talking about the only thing that's happened printing this amount of money is the 15 richest Canadians, 30% return on the pandemic.
Yeah.
They're 30% richer.
And that's really
disgusting.
Yeah, well, and that's what's going on, is that the wealthy people have the ability to adapt to this quite quickly, and the middle class and the harder people, the harder done by people, or the lower income people, are struggling. And you can't live off of $2,000 a month.
No.
And they realize that even if they do have a living wage, people are not motivated to work. And that's the thing. They're not putting in human nature into all this stuff, and people are greedy and they're going to take what they can. And they're tapping into that to try and get votes, but it's not what's right for us as a country. It's not right for us as a people. So they're printing money at a record rate. So now there's just more money in the market. There's more money in the economy. They're printing government bonds, and the people are buying government bonds and getting return on that. But again, bond yields are so low right now because interest rates are kept low. So where do you get returns from?
But then the Bank of Canada is buying them back at a higher rate than what they gave them out at, which is why the rich are getting rich. It's my understanding, talking to an economist that I know, it's an arbitrage situation for the massively wealthy. We're going to sell you this for 79 cents, we're going to buy it back from you for $1.
Yep.
To get the money in the market. And that's what's happened with the massively wealthy.
Yep.
Mr. Morneau's of this world did not fare poorly during COVID.
No, they're not struggling. Well, we saw Jeff Bezos and what's that Tesla guy? What's his name again?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Yeah. They're like Shopify, all these, like there's a lot of people that have made a lot of money over this. And the stock market is not impacted by these numbers because large corporations have been taking corporate welfare and pocketing the money and increasing the, and a lot of large corporations have taken the corporate welfare and just kept themselves afloat.
Yeah.
But you got to look at if you're down business. So we've got tourism down, well, probably even more now because the borders still aren't open. All this government debt is being spent, so they're going to have to, recoup that.
The funny thing though, too, about the border being closed, certain sectors are doing very well. Dairyland is very glad that the border's closed because people can't go get milk in BC down across the border.
And again, those are micro kind of.
Yeah, flowers. I started making a list. It's very interesting. There are some industries that did better. Flowers got way more expensive for some unknown reason. Apparently, they just couldn't get them in.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's still like interest rates, I can almost guarantee it. I don't usually say guarantee in my job. I can't guarantee much of anything, but I can almost guarantee that interest rates are going to stay low for 10 years, like at least 5.
Yeah.
You're not going to see inflation creep up if inflation does creep up, they're going to just tax people to try and control inflation. So again, if you know what's going on in the market, but if you just try and play, the game has changed. You need to play the game. The game has different rules now as far as financial planning is concerned. If you try and play the game with the government the old-fashioned way, you're going to lose every time.
Yeah.
You need to take advantage of what's out there for you and what's right for your family and your plan. Unemployment, as we saw, is toast, and immigration is way down. Canada relies on immigration. I don't care what people say about too much immigration. We need immigration. We need people in this country to work and to contribute to the economy.
I think now, Lyle, with the force, one thing that COVID has really done, and it hasn't been brought up a lot, is a lot of the people between the ages of 75 and 62 were working. Now they're not.
Yeah.
A lot of the teachers that were hanging on because they wanted their best 5 years are gone.
Yeah.
Because they're too scared to come back. And I haven't seen a lot of my dad during this as being sad, but I understand why. My dad's got health issues.
Yeah.
We now all of a sudden have a brain drain again, right? Immigration is important to bring people that have skills back to Canada. We really need them.
Well, and we have the aging population.
That's what I'm saying. And, there's so many people that are being forced retired.
Yep. It's crazy. It's really nuts how this is all, kind of impacting. So our finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, who's not in finance at all, she's a journalist before she became a politician, if anybody has ideas on how the government can act to help unlock preloaded stimulus is also code word for your savings. I'm very interested. So basically they want to unlock your preloaded stimulus. They want your savings. I found it very
that news conference was so bizarre.
Well, I find it very weird that the finance minister is asking for advice from the regular people when we should be listening to them.
I got a question. Why didn't she just ask George Soros? She's a disciple of George Soros. Why didn't she just go ask him?
Because you said that, we're going to get de-platformed now, buddy.
Oh,
thanks.
Sorry.
Anyways, the leader is good. The leader is great.
But no,
this is not a tax on your savings. I'm sorry to tell you. Like some people are saying they're coming after your savings. No, but they want you to spend it. And I'm going to tell you to spend it. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you as a financial planner, with all of the uncertainty in our world right now, don't do that. Do not do that. Never, ever, ever do that. And I'm being very this is a different tone right now that I'm saying. I've been trying to be positive about things. Do not listen to them about spending your money on stuff you don't need right now. Spend money on stuff you need. Support small business. If you have a choice between 2 products and it's a little bit more at the small business, do it, because you're supporting small business. You're supporting jobs. These large corporations don't need any more advantages over small business. So I found that very true.
Cash is king. When you go into a difficult time, anytime anybody's going into anything difficult, cash is king.
And we've seen it with corporate stuff, because corporations used to have their corporations as tax havens, as Justin Trudeau used to say. And so they've forced corporations to impoverish themselves because it's punitive for you to keep savings inside your corporation. So I'm telling you right now, do not spend your money. Save it until this is all figured out, because right now is not the time to make drastic decisions. And you're going to see a lot of things settling out, and there's going to be a new economy. And speaking of new economy, we got President Joe. Everybody seems to think he's the second coming, but I hate to tell you guys, he's not going to be any different. He might be a little bit less Twitter stuff and less volatile, but at the same time, he's not any different. He's been a politician forever. Yep. And he doesn't really have a lot of acumen as far as economic recovery, but we'll talk about it. So he wants to get health insurance for 97% of Americans in 10 years. Great idea. Nothing wrong with that. He wants to raise an additional $4 trillion in tax revenue by increasing the top tax rate to 39.6% and taxing capital gains at ordinary rates and raising the corporate tax rate to 28%. Matt.
Yep.
What do you think is going to happen when he does that?
Well, here's the sad part, Lyle. I deal with a little bit of U.S. tax.
Yeah.
Where my clients were actually getting hit, and it should be pointed out, was they were hit by the Donald Trump 10% retained earnings tax. Remember when that came out? I talked to you about that a little bit.
Yep.
That is being repealed. Well, so it's great for some of my clients. Absolutely. It is horrible for the American public, because all these tax rates you're talking about here, and then everybody's like, oh, great, Google's going to pay this. No, a lot of Google's companies are offshore. They were hit by the Donald Trump tax. All these people that were in tax havens that pay no tax are still going to pay no tax. And that's a lot of the companies. Yeah. So unfortunately, what's going to happen is this is going to hit small business, mid-cap firms, small-cap firms. That's the stuff. They're not going to hit the really wealthy. They're not. Unfortunately, the really wealthy, Mark Zuckerberg's of this world, all those people have their money outside of the United States. They that's the way it is.
Yeah.
It's funny because the first thing that Joe Biden said, and he got a lot of money for saying this, I'm going to repeal Donald Trump's the tax rules. As soon as he did that, all giant tech gave him millions of dollars.
Yeah, and that's kind of what, if you look at his staff, I think he's got no fewer than 15 people that are ex-tech gurus or ex-tech employees, high-level tech employees. I can look at that in two ways. I can look at it and saying, okay, well, that means they're going to do some innovative stuff, because
which we're all for. Innovation's great.
I'm all for that. The problem is that they're going to innovate I bet you the first one they're going to innovate is the IRS. And the IRS is
absolutely.
The IRS is going to be innovated, much like Facebook and Twitter have been innovative in tracking you and selling your information to advertisers, and target advertising for you. And that's really what's going to happen with the IRS is going to be, they're going to be all over you. And there's nothing, and they're going to start tracking everything, and it's going to be, forgive student loan debt and make college free for those making up to $125,000 a year.
$125,000 is a lot of money a year, man. Especially when you're housing and 90% of them, sorry, not 90, probably 75% of America, the price of a home is say $250,000.
I don't understand this.
I don't know how they're going to do this.
Well, you have all these college grads that are making $15 an hour at Starbucks, because you have a master's in critical human theory or critical race theory, and there's no jobs in that. There's no jobs in sociology. There's no jobs in those types of things. So there's a lot of people getting a lot of education on their parents' dime or on student loans dime that don't want to face the world.
Yeah.
And now they're just going to be incentivized to go back to school.
The other thing too in the United States, and this is what they really need to curb, is the cost of schooling has gone bananas because of the universities hire so many people. And I can talk about this because my wife went to school in a very prestigious school in the United States of America for 1 year.
Mhm.
It was very expensive. That school now is nearly $70,000 a year.
Well, and that's because we're Canadians in America, but that's where they get most of their money is from foreign students.
We're falling into that trap.
Canadian colleges are the same way. But I mean, what they're not focusing on, if they want to focus on infrastructure and investing in the future, then focus on getting people into the trades. We need welders,
We're engineers.
we need all those things. We don't need any more sociologists. We got enough of them down there, and they're all unemployed and griping and being enraged by everything. This one's going to hurt the American small business. $15 an hour and repeal the right to work law. I'm not familiar with the right to work laws, but so I'm not going to comment on that because I'm not familiar with it. But I know raising minimum wage to $15 an hour, when in some states, like let's just say Oklahoma, for example, you can be a server and making, I think minimum wage for servers in Oklahoma is $2.83 an hour. But they make all their money in tips. And so they make hundreds of dollars in tips every day. That's usually tax-free. So what you're going to see is,
just so you know, the right to work laws is unions. It's all to do with unions. So there's states that have right to work laws, which I believe, you don't have to join a union, whereas now they will have to join a union. Mm-hmm. That is core old school democratic law.
I don't mind unions, to be honest. Like if the union's there to help the union members, because they are important. They are overweight and they are expensive and they drive me crazy. But I think unions do serve an important purpose in our world right now. If you didn't have I work for the federal government. If the federal government employees don't have their union, the federal government will walk all over you. So I do know, speaking from being a union member in the past, that the union is important, but it's not, they just need to cut. Again, we need fiscal prudence, fiscal responsibility. Don't just spend more money, be fiscally responsible. This is what's going to hurt Canada, and everybody loves Joe Biden. You're not going to like him when he starts nailing us with tariffs, and he might even try and repeal the free trade agreement.
This is already hurting business, by the way.
Yeah, buy American policies.
Yeah,
so any government contract is going to be done through American stuff, and federal matching incentives to make American products more competitive. That's corporate welfare to incentivize people to make products in the United States. Not sure how good that's going
to. I'm telling you right now, Lyle, I actually know 2 companies that I do the books for that this has hurt already.
Yeah.
Because the people they were dealing with were getting prepared for this.
Yeah. Invest 1.3 trillion in infrastructure over 10 years. And then
that's really needed, but yep.
Well, Canada needs it too. We need new roads.
We need new roads.
We need new everything. We need new hospitals. We need all of those things. But guess what? We don't have tradespeople to do the work, because everybody's going to school and doing sociology. I hate beating on sociology people today, but there's nothing unless you want to get into a career in politics, there's not much you can do with that. $2 trillion on clean energy during the first term as president.
The interesting thing here, just one comment. Obama did this with solar energy. You know what happened? They gave $2 billion to these solar companies. You know what the solar companies did? Gave $2 billion to the executives and shut the company down.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking.
Well,
solar under Biden was turned back. Sorry, solar under Obama was put back years because they just were throwing money and companies just took the money. The executives took the money and left.
Yeah.
So I really hope they learn from that, because I would love to see solar get better. I really would.
Well, I think it's called An Inconvenient Truth, where they had solar deserts. If you set up a thing of solar panels, it actually kills the foliage underneath.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Because the sun doesn't get through. So that brings us to kind of we're going to close with this, and there's obviously, I'm going to give you kind of my point of view on your financial planning with coming after this, is that you're going to see more and more that you're no longer a person to the government. You're a money-making machine. They need your revenue. They need your money. but there's going to be opportunities to invest in. There's going to be opportunities for you to invest in. As you can see, green is going to be the new thing. So if you have some ability to invest in some sort of green technology, green businesses, ethical businesses, those are the businesses that are going to get corporate subsidies and corporate welfare. They're not going to be making a lot of money, but you're going to see a lot of tech stuff. Tech's run up so much already.
Yeah.
But you look back and you look at, okay, you have all these cars that they need to make with batteries. Well, what do you need for that? You need lithium and you need nickel and you need,
And they're dirt. That's all dirty stuff to make, to get.
But again, we'll talk, but guess what? Canada has a lot of nickel.
All of it.
We have a lot of all that stuff. And if we can keep the Chinese out of our mining industry, which they're trying to get into like crazy,
Yep.
Canada could do okay through all of it,
Canada,
regardless of what we're trying to do to ourselves with all these things. So Canada has a lot of potential. We have a lot of natural resources. Resources are going to go up. Oil is going to go up. Sort of tell everybody oil is going to be more reliant on because we need to make more of these green cars. And that all requires energy. And they get the energy, not in BC, we have hydroelectric. We're quite blessed. But to get the energy to do all of that, it's either going to be coal or it's going to be natural gas. So again, we got a lot of all of those. So Canada can supply the world with clean energy if we choose to, but I hope we just don't cut off our nose to spite our face.
Yep.
So next week, we're going to talk about the Canada Pension Plan in a lot more depth. We're going to actually look at numbers and take a look at what that 9% is going to cost you and moving forward and what it's going to cost you to be on the Canada Pension Plan moving forward for the rest of your kind of life. Before I close it down, is there any questions from anybody watching today? We've kind of gone a little bit more than we want to, but there's a lot of material to cover. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I'm going to post this on YouTube, so you can watch it again because you love hearing our voice. Matt, anything to add before we cut you loose?
No, just stay vigilant. Use your professionals. That's the only thing I'd say is use your professionals. Listen to the advice that's given. Don't listen to a friend giving you some advice. I hear that all the time. Well, my friend said,
yeah,
there's a lot of good professionals out there that will help you. And the other thing I'm going to tell you is don't get mad at the people at the CRB office or the CEBA office or Revenue Canada. It's just their job. That's it. Just remember that it's their job. They're not doing this to be spiteful. They've been given a list of rules. So just treat them with respect and understand that they have a job to do. So, if you're finding yourself running into some problems, there are people that can help you, but just please understand these people are not trying to make your life difficult. They have a job to do, and that's the job that they've been given, right?
Yeah.
It's the last thing I'd just like to say. Just remember they're people too.
And just remember everybody's people, and we need to be kind to each other because we're finding a lot of there's a lot of nastiness out there right now. There's a lot of there's a lot of scary stuff going on right now.
And people are scared. We get it. People are scared.
Oh yeah, and that's why we're kind of passionate today about on the podcast, because this is a pretty historic time in our world, and you can look back and this is going to be on YouTube forever, so we can look back from a year from today, and we may be completely wrong.
Yep.
But if we're right, wouldn't you like to plan for the worst and hope for the best?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm going to tell people is just plan for the worst and hope for the best. And this is not over by any stretch of the imagination. So keep your head down, keep working. If you need to work 2 jobs, work 2 jobs. I'm telling people right now, just try and get as much savings as you can.
There is work. By the way, there is work out there.
Oh yeah.
I keep on hearing that there's no work. There is work out there. If you want to work, there's work.
There's tons of work. So go work.
In BC. I mean, I feel horrible for the people in Ontario and Quebec. I really, and Manitoba. I really do.
No, I do too. And I work closely with a lot of people in Ontario, and
it's sad.
Yeah, they're working from home. They're doing what they can, but that's.
And we hope everybody gets better and that we can get on. Hopefully this ends soon.
Yeah, hope so. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks, Matt. And we'll see everybody next week.